the all-new Epic. It's our new full travel, fully capable cross-country bike, kind of ready for whatever you're going to throw at it. And inspiration for developing this bike was really looking at the longer stage races like the Cape Epic, these long marathon races that are super rugged, as well as the really aggressive modern World Cup tracks. The three areas of focus were really the capability, the efficiency, and then keeping the weight down. We had the previous Epic Evo that a lot of riders were gravitating towards for that capability. The two key ways we were able to improve the capability was pushing the geometry and going with a very progressive angles for a cross-country bike. So the slack head tube angle on the race bike is 65.95. Definitely gives you a lot of downhill confidence, a little bit longer front center for high-speed stability, but we kept the rear end short, and then we also have some geometry adjust if a rider wants to go with a little bit steeper geometry set to sharpen up the handling a little bit. All of that really lends to making the bike more capable, but also allowing riders to kind of reel it back in for a more tame track where they don't really need that all-out stability. And you do that geometry adjust through our shock extension. It's incredibly easy for a rider to do, even on the side of the trail. So to change the geometry, we have a chip in here that flips back and forth, and it adjusts the bottom bracket height and the angle of the front triangle. We also increased the travel from 100 millimeters to 120. And did a lot of kinematic tuning to improve bump force management. So we have all new suspension, kinematics, and shock tune that we have been able to prove that the bike actually absorbs vibrations from the ground significantly more than the previous generation of the Epic by about 12%. At Specialized here, we have a really robust ride dynamics team that's been around for a long time, but we've recently made great investments to really power up that team to achieve great things, and this is a prime example of how that has really come together. And we have a fully custom shock that's developed alongside RockShox, and then our ride dynamics tuned kinematics that really accentuate what that shock's able to do, and it's really designed as a package.
For one, on this bike we have 3 settings now. We had a different philosophy on how we were going to get about the 3 positions. Obviously having 3 positions, it opened up a lot of opportunities to really make each one very specific to each type of terrain we're looking for. So for one on the open side, we're able to really cater that open damper tune combined with the spring tune to be as capable and comfortable, kind of think almost as trail bike as you could without having to compromise pedaling. And we were allowed to bring that mid mode in to be the middle ground. And it really kind of sits between that lock and open setting, but we did a unique thing where we added a digressive damper tune to it. This brings up the low speed, but doesn't overproduce on high speed damping. So it allows us to have a really firm pedaling platform without compromising on bump performance too much. So you'll feel like you're in a little bit of a lock setting, but when you start hitting bumps and you get into those higher shaft speeds, you actually end up with a very similar damper curve to the open setting. So it's kind of like this cross of a setting that you can climb really well, but you can actually descend it really well too. So they can be riding through rough terrain, but also still have that efficiency. And then it also allowed us to take lock and just make this really, really firm. It starts to blur the lines between trail bikes and XC. I find that it pedals significantly better, mostly due to the anti-squat kinematics. But the spring tune really brings it into a trail bike feel on the open mode. And then using that middle mode is kind of a race setting that people can kind of set and forget is a key one.
And then since it's a cross-country race bike, we really want to keep the weight down. So we looked at every aspect of the bike and really tried to pull the weight down as far as we could while not compromising on that capability and efficiency.
One thing that we did was an entirely new forward shock mount construction. We molded it completely hollow, that we would call compression molded, and it saved us about 20 grams in the top tube compared to the previous gen bike. And it allowed us to machine open this hole so that on all models but the S-Works, which comes with Flight Attendant, we're able to put the remote lockout that goes up into the frame.
So if you look at the bike, you'll see things like titanium hardware, carbon shock extension, some really cool manufacturing methods in the top tube to really just create a lighter frame construction. You'll notice that the seat stays are slimmed down, just reducing surface area where we could, but maintaining all the strength and the stiffness that we need as well. So the stiffness is on par and even improved from the previous generation, but we've been able to reduce weight of the whole system by about 76 grams. So how we were able to keep the bike light. So starting with the hardware things, you'll see a few little bits on the S-Works model, like a carbon shock extension. So this is all compression molded out of carbon fiber, able to save a ton of weight off of the aluminum version. We also have a few things like titanium hardware here through the shock extension bolt, through the pivot bolts here, so that all that just helps shave those valuable grams. It's now like the perfect package of efficiency and capability.